So I had a conversation with my dad the other day, and I'm actually still a little bit weirded out about it. I'm not even gonna lie, like it got me feeling some type of way, but I think it's important. So this is why I'm going to share it, right? So buckle up, put your seatbelt on, be prepared to feel some type of way because this is very, very personal for me. And I'm sure somebody out there can relate because this is not a common thing. Let's talk about it. I go by the name of Q. If you're unfamiliar, if you are familiar, shout out to you and welcome back. So the conversation I had with my dad, right? Simply put, it was about my upbringing, right? So I'm 33 years old now. My dad raised me. He was a single father. I did not live with my mother. I would visit my mother on weekends until she passed away when I was 16. But other than that, I never stayed with her after my dad and my mom separated, right? So they split, they divorced earlier in my youth. And I'm pretty sure that had an effect on me. I can't really pinpoint it. I haven't went to counseling. I've never gone to therapy for that specific thing. I have gone to therapy before, which is why I'm a huge advocate for it, which is why I want to share this message, because I feel like whether you're doing bad or good in life, therapy is very, very important. So here we go. I was talking to my dad for about 2 hours straight, and I told him that I spoke with my grandmother, right, which is my mom's mom. I just got back from a family reunion down in Urbana-Champaign. So we were on campus at the University of Illinois, and I pulled my grandmother to the side and we had some specific conversations, and that conversation went for 2 hours long, and I just told her to lay it on me. Like, I'm a grown man now. I got my own family. I pieced things together as I grew up, but I didn't ask those tough questions until I was actually ready to hear the answer. You know, when you have certain curiosities as a youth, right? And you just say like, how come this or how come that? Like all of my friends, most of my friends grew up in single parent households, but those single parents was oftentimes mothers. I never met a single father other than my dad. And I know they exist. I'm well aware that they exist, but I personally never met another single father outside of my dad. So that was extremely weird, and it had me curious for most of my life. And when I asked these questions, my grandmother really, I told her, don't hold back. Just tell her straightforward truth. Don't hold nothing back. You know what I'm saying? I'm here. I'm a grown man, and this is why this is where I'm at with it. I'm curious. I really want to know, for not only for me, but for what I can let my kids know in the future, because they do have namesakes. Like Parker is my mom's maiden name, right? So that's where she get her first name from. So I want to make sure that she fully understands her and that I fully understand my mom, because I only knew her for 16 years, like literally half my life. So yeah, we get to having a conversation, and she break down why my dad and her split and why the divorce took place and why I ended up with my dad and not with my mom. And I'll keep that out the way. I'll let your mind wander on that. But ultimately, when we were younger, right, my dad became a father when he was 19. He was a very young father of three, right? So I have an older sister and an older brother. When we were growing up, we were extremely broke. I talk about this a lot. We were extremely broke, extremely poor, trying to decide which month we gonna go with what. Like, are we gonna go without gas this month, or are we gonna go without lights this month? Like, if we go without gas, we're gonna use the microwave to warm up our water to bathe with. If we go without electric, we're gonna use candles and flashlights. Extremely resourceful, but extremely broke. And those traits right there carried over. It carried over into my adulthood. I reference that a lot too. So it's like, I'm pretty much intentionally undigging childhood traumas and financial traumas. I talked about this on my Instagram recently. If you aren't following me, Q Makes It Happen on Instagram. I talked about this on my IG, and that trauma is real. If it goes unattended, if it goes unaddressed, it can stick with you and hinder you for your whole entire life. It may be uncomfortable. It may make you feel some type of way, but it is what it is. When you're ready though, don't dive into it unless you know for sure that you want to find out certain answers for certain things. And that's where I'm at in my life. Like, I'm ready for whatever. I'm always looking to lean in and dive in head first, whether it's a difficult, uncomfortable conversation or whatever it is, because why waste time, right? Why let your mind be festered with all these curiosities when you can just ask the source right here? Extremely poor is what we were, so that goes without saying. But the conversation that led to the money portion, right, which is what I'm talking about. My dad shared a story with me where when he was younger, my mom, my dad, they was just getting their feet wet. They were having kids so young. They got their apartment together, and there was a month where he did not know. He had no clue how he was gonna feed his kids, and he's scrambling, he's scrapping, who do I call? I don't have enough money. There's no food in the fridge. If I don't eat, that's okay. If my kids don't eat, That is not okay. So he's thinking of who he can call. He said, I'm not gonna call my parents because they ain't got much of nothing either. But I can call my in-laws because, you know, my mom's parents, they did well for themselves. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was night and day between my grandparents on my father's side and my grandparents on my mother's side. Night and day. Like, my grandparents still to this day drive Mercedes, Escalades, do what they want, when they want, how they want. Their whole life they was like that. But my grandparents on my dad's side, they just didn't have it. So my dad was like, I'm gonna leave my parents alone. Let's tap into where the money really is, right? Like, we're in this together, right? So let's tap into our resources. So my dad got my mom to call her mom, and my grandmother pretty much told my mom, like, if this is your husband and he's the head of the household, the man of the house, have him call me. You don't call me. Get off my phone. I want to talk to him if y'all really want the money, right? Because essentially he was calling to borrow some money to buy some groceries, right? So what blew me and what got my blood to boiling when he was sharing his story with me was the fact that as a man, as a father, as a husband, imagine calling your mother-in-law, essentially begging, right? Essentially begging for money to feed her grandchildren. And then she gave him the money, but she also badgered him every step of the way. He told her, give me 2 weeks. I'll pay you back when I get my next check. And she's like, you better have it. You better have it. So every day, how's it looking? You gonna have my money? And it's like, give the man a break. She did not cut him any breaks. So I'm pretty sure my dad and his in-laws, you know, my grandparents on my mother's side at the time, they didn't have the best relationship, right? Like, that's neither here nor there. But ultimately, he said that's what triggered him in a way. Like, he said, from here on out, I'm never gonna rely on anybody other than me. Not even my wife, right? Like, not even my mom. He said, it's up to me. If I'm gonna figure this out, I'm gonna figure this out no matter how young I am, no matter my knowledge base, no matter how many resources I have. I'm going to figure this out. Like, I'm going to be the one to make it happen, to provide for my family, because although she was annoying, badgering him, she was absolutely right. Like, you bringing kids into this world without a proper plan and preparation to provide for them. So it's like, come on now. So that was a harsh truth, and it forced him to get it together, which is similar to my story. Like I said, when me and Kara first got together, I was much older than my dad. Like, I didn't have it together, and I'm leaning on her, begging for money, asking for money. Whole time, I just needed to get my act together, and that's what sparked me. So it's so eerily similar how much my childhood and, you know, how much of my father is in me still to this day. And there's a lot of things that I'm unlearning and relearning, like I say all the time, because that's very important, to unlearn and relearn certain things, because a lot of the stuff I was taught growing up is not conducive to the life I desire, right? So for instance, there were certain phrases I heard growing up that I would never want to say to my kids, right? Because I get it. If you don't have the money, you don't have it. But ultimately, you're displaying or teaching them a poor mentality, a poor mindset, and you're pretty much extracting any type of hope and optimism for better. That's what you're stealing. Like, inadvertently, you may not be doing it on purpose, but you are doing it. So growing up, all I heard, we would go to the grocery store, go shopping, don't look at nothing, don't touch nothing. I'm just like, damn, okay. All right, keep my hands to myself, cover my eyes, like, I don't see nothing. Although I really do want that toy over there, I'm gonna just act like it's invisible, act like I don't see it. When we would drive down the street and see a McDonald's, I'll ask for McDonald's or ask for a Happy Meal, because what kids do not want a Happy Meal? Can I get a Happy Meal? You got McDonald's money? You got Happy Meal money? I ain't got no money for no Happy Meal. You don't even ask me. And I'm just like, what can I have then? Like, what can I have? What can I have? Another one is don't ask me for no money. I ain't got it, etc., etc. Like, those are a few phrases I've heard growing up as a kid, and here I am approaching 34, and I will never forget those phrases, because that's all I heard. That's all a form of trauma. I grew up knowing that I can't afford stuff, or knowing that I can't have certain things, when in reality, you can afford and have whatever you want. Like I talk about all the time. Like, I'm tapped into my abundance mindset now, because it's just a new day, a new age, and I'm here changing my family tree right in front of all of y'all. I'm actually shaking sharing this story, because this is way too deep, but that's what I want to talk about. And lastly, I'll say, a lot of the things that we do here as adults, you may not even realize why you're doing it, right? You may just think it's a common theme. Like, another phrase I heard was, well, that's how my mom always did it, or that's how my daddy always did it. Like, okay, so what? They might have been doing it wrong. They may have have been doing it wrong. As much as you love your mama or your daddy, they might not have had it all figured out. Like sometimes we grow up thinking our parents are perfect, not realizing they're human beings, imperfect just like the rest of us. But the fact that they're our parents, we look at them as holier than thou, as superheroes, as they can do no wrong, and they can absolutely do wrong. They can do right as well. So it's up to us to realize that, right? And check that at the door. Because like I said, I'm probably at my peak maturity right now. I've never been more mature in my life, and I'm realizing all these things. So whatever you've had, any issues with your parents, any childhood or financial trauma, it's important to understand that and know fully like why and how. Like I said, it may be uncomfortable, it may not feel good, but once you dive in head first, right, learn from it, grow through it, heal from it, and keep it moving, it's the best thing for you versus just letting it fester and letting it lead you throughout life, because that's what it did for me for a lot of my life. But that stops here. Like I said, I intentional. This is everything I do these days is intentional. I don't do anything by mistake. I don't do anything by happenstance most of the time. Everything I do now is intentional, calculated. It's a purpose behind it. There's a reason for it. I'm very strategic with everything I do. So especially something like this, like I said, I want to be in the best headspace for my kids. I want to be in the best headspace for myself. And as well, if I'm going to be educating people online, I want to give them the best value possible, as I always talk about, and pretty much teach something that's not really talked about, because this is a topic that is not really talked about. So that is absolutely all I have for today. Jesus Christ, I'm sorry to just dump on y'all like that, but hopefully there was a lesson in there. Hopefully there was something you can learn from, as always. But I just needed to get that out. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I got a few people I can talk to, right? I talk to my wife about these things. I talk to my best friend about these things. And there's certain things that I won't disclose, of course, but ultimately I gave y'all the broad scope, the general consensus, and I always sprinkle this in from time to time throughout my channel. Y'all will always hear me reference my father, right? I will rep him forever. This dude is, he literally saved my life. Like, everything I mentioned about him, I'm pretty sure y'all can see that in me. Like, the fact that I am the way I am with my kids, like, I'm a father first, family man first. I put that on, ahead of everything, because that's important. Like, after everybody leaves you, or if your job lays you off, you'll always have family. So family first, money second, everything else, it should line up, right? Because my faith is strong. So yeah, that's it. I'm just rambling at this point. Like this video if you like it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Also follow me on IG, Q Makes It Happen on Instagram. Go show your boys some love, right? If you want to become a member of the Q crew, join my accountability group, where you'll get more one-on-one with me, exclusive content, and it's also a way to support the channel. Click that join button down below. I would love to have you over there. I'll be sharing even more exclusive content like this. I was surprised to even share this here. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm jumping back and forth between both, but join the Q crew and we can have some even deeper conversation, right? Because I get it. This video may not do well, but guess what? I don't care, because I know it will help somebody. I know it will potentially save somebody's life. And it was also like a relief for me to get this off my chest, to share this with y'all who've been rocking with me for so long. I think y'all deserve to hear this and get more in-depth detail from my life, from my perspective, and understand why I do what I do, understand why I operate the way I operate. And it just all makes sense. I go by the name of Q, and like I always say, if Q can make it happen, you can make it happen. I'll holler at y'all next video. Peace.